Usermiate Mariamun Ramesses III, also written Ramses and Ramesses, was the second pharaoh of the 20th dynasty in ancient Egypt. He is thought to have reigned from March 26, 1186, to April 15, 1155 BC, and is considered to be the last great monarch of the New Kingdom to wield any substantial authority over Egypt. Pharaoh. Reign 1186 to 1155 BC. Predecessor Setnakti. Successor Ramesses IV consort Taitai Isis Ta Hemjert Tai. Children by Taitai Amenherkapeshf. Ramesses IV Mariamun by Isis Ta Hemjert Paraherwenmef. Ramesses VI Montuerkupshef by Tai Kamwasit Pentaware Mariatum. Ramesses VIII Duantantopt only daughter. Father Setnakti. Mother T. Marinese, born 1217 BC, died 1155 BC, aged 60, 162. Burial Kavi 11. Mummy found in the Deir el-Bahri Royal Cache, Theban necropolis. Monuments Medinet Habu Dynasty 20th Dynasty. His long reign saw the decline of Egyptian political and economic power, linked to a series of invasions and internal economic problems that also plagued pharaohs before him. This coincided with the decline in the cultural sphere of ancient Egypt. However, his successful defense was able to slow down the decline, although it still meant that his successors would have a weaker military. He has also been described as a warrior pharaoh due to his strong military strategies. He led the way by defeating the invaders known as the Sea Peoples, who had caused destruction in other civilizations and empires. He was able to save Egypt from collapsing at the time when many other empires fell during the Late Bronze Age. However, the damage of the invasions took a toll on Egypt. Ramses III constructed one of the largest mortuary temples of Western Thebes, now called Medinet Habu. Ramesses III was the son of Setnakti and T. Marinese. He was assassinated in the harem conspiracy led by his secondary wife, Tai, and her eldest son, Pentaware. This would ultimately cause a succession crisis which would further accelerate the decline of ancient Egypt. He was succeeded by his son and designated successor Ramesses IV. Although many of his other sons would rule later, Ramesses' two main names transliterate as Dusabur Mount Ar-Mrai Mun Ar-Miz S1. They are normally realized as Usermiate Mariamun Ramesses Hikunu, meaning the Mod of Ra is strong, beloved of Amun, born of Ra, ruler of Heliopolis. Ramesses III, believed to have reigned from March 1186 to April 1155 BC. This is based on his known accession date of Ishimu 26 and his death on year 32-3, Shimu 15, for a reign of 31 years, 1 month, and 19 days. Alternative dates for his reign are 1187 to 1156 BC. In a description of his coronation from Medinet Habu, 4 doves were said to be dispatched to the 4 corners of the horizon to confirm that the living Horus, Ramses III, is still in possession of his throne, that the order of Mot prevails in the cosmos and society. During his long tenure, in the midst of the surrounding political chaos of the Late Bronze Age collapse, Egypt was beset by foreign invaders including the so-called Sea Peoples and the Libyans, and experienced the beginnings of increasing economic difficulties and internal strife which would eventually lead to the collapse of the 20th dynasty. In year 8 of his reign, the Sea Peoples, including Peliset, Denyen, Shardana, Meshwesh of the Sea, and Jeker, invaded Egypt by land and sea. Ramesses III defeated them in 2 great land and sea battles. First, he defeated them on land in the Battle of Jahai on the Egyptian Empire's easternmost frontier in Jahai, or modern-day southern Lebanon. The second one was the Battle of the Delta, in which Ramesses enticed the Sea Peoples and their ships into the mouth of the Nile, where he had assembled a fleet in ambush. Although the Egyptians had a reputation as poor seamen, they fought tenaciously. Ramesses lined the shores with ranks of archers who kept up a continuous volley of arrows into the enemy ships when they attempted to land on the banks of the Nile. Then, the Egyptian navy attacked, using grappling hooks to haul in the enemy ships. In the brutal hand-to-hand fighting which ensued, the sea peoples were utterly defeated. The Harris Papyrus states, "As for those who reached my frontier, their seed is not, their heart and their soul are finished forever and ever. As for those who came forward together on the seas, the full flame was in front of them at the Nile mounts, while a stockade of lances surrounded them on the shore, prostrated on the beach, slain, and made into heaps from head to tail." Ramesses III incorporated the sea peoples as subject peoples and settled them in southern Canaan. Their presence in Canaan may have contributed to the formation of new states in this region, such as Philistia, after the collapse of the Egyptian Empire in Asia. During the reign of Ramses III, Egyptian presence in the Levant is still attested as far as Byblos, and he may have campaigned further north into Syria. Ramesses III was also compelled to fight invading Libyan tribesmen in two major campaigns in Egypt's western delta in his year 5 and year 11, respectively. By the early 12th century, Egypt claimed overlordship of Cyrenaican tribes. At one point, a ruler chosen by Egypt was set up briefly over the combined tribes of Meshwesh, Lebu, and Sabt. The heavy cost of these battles slowly exhausted Egypt's treasury and contributed to the gradual decline of the Egyptian empire in Asia. The severity of these difficulties is stressed by the fact that the first known labor strike in recorded history occurred during year 29 of Ramesses III's reign, when the food rations for the favored and elite royal tomb builders and artisans in the village of Set Mather Imenti Wazit, now known as Deir el Medina, could not be provisioned. Something in the air, possibly the Hekla III eruption, prevented much sunlight from reaching the ground and also arrested global tree growth for almost 2 full decades until 1140 BC. The result in Egypt was a substantial increase in grain prices under the later reigns of Ramesses IV, whereas the prices for fowl and slaves remained constant. Thus the cooldown affected Ramesses III's final years and impaired his ability to provide a constant supply of grain rations to the workmen of the Deir el Medina community. These difficult realities are completely ignored in Ramesses' official monuments, many of which seek to emulate those of his famous predecessor, Ramesses II, and which present an image of continuity and stability. He built important additions to the temples at Luxor and Karnak, and his funerary temple and administrative complex at Medinet Habu is amongst the largest and best preserved in Egypt. However, the uncertainty of Ramesses' times is apparent from the massive fortifications which were built to enclose the latter. No temple in the heart of Egypt prior to Ramesses' reign had ever needed to be protected in such a manner. Thanks to the discovery of papyrus trial transcripts dated to Ramesses III, it is now known that there was a plot against his life as a result of a royal harem conspiracy during a celebration at Medinet Habu on day 15 of month 2 Shimu 1155 BCE. The conspiracy was instigated by Tai, one of his 3 known wives, the others being Tai and Isit Ta Hemjert, over whose son would inherit the throne. Tai's son, Ramesses Amenherkupshuf, the future Ramesses IV, was the eldest and the successor chosen by Ramesses III in preference to Tai's son Pentaweret. The trial documents show that many individuals were implicated in the plot. Chief among them were Queen Tai and her son Pentaweret, Ramesses' chief of the chamber, Pabekamen, 7 royal butlers, a respectable state office, 2 treasury overseers, 2 army standard bearers, 2 royal scribes, and a herald. There is little doubt that all of the main conspirators were executed. Some of the condemned were given the option of committing suicide, possibly by poison, rather than being put to death. According to the surviving trial transcripts, a total of 3 separate trials were started, while 38 people were sentenced to death. The tombs of Tai and her son Pentaweret were robbed and their names erased to prevent them from enjoying an afterlife. The Egyptians did such a thorough job of this that the only references to them are the trial documents and what remains of their tombs. Some of the accused harem women tried to seduce the members of the judiciary who tried them, but were caught in the act. Judges who were involved were severely punished. Ramesses IV, the king's designated successor, assumed the throne upon his death, rather than Pentaweret, who was intended to be the main beneficiary of the palace conspiracy. Moreover, Ramses III died in his 32nd year, before the summaries of the sentences were composed, but the same year that the trial documents record the trial and execution of the conspirators, although it was